Imagine living for thousands of years, witnessing the rise and fall of entire civilizations, the birth and death of countless heroes, and the slow, inevitable decay of the world you've always known. For the Elves of Middle-earth, this is their reality. But immortality, often seen as a gift, is far from perfect. It is a double-edged sword, one that brings not only wisdom and strength, but also an unbearable burden of time. In Middle-earth, the elves are known for their beauty, grace, and unparalleled wisdom. But beneath their serene exterior lies a complexity that few understand. They are the eternal witnesses of history, and while they stand apart from mortals, they are bound to the land in a way no other race can truly comprehend. They've seen the world change in ways that have both shaped their destiny and deepened their sorrow. What is it like to live forever, to see the rise and fall of kingdoms, to outlive entire generations of men, and to watch the world slowly fade away into something unrecognizable? The elves know this pain all too well. As they see the world change around them, they are forced to come to terms with the fact that they will never know peace in the same way as mortals. Their immortality is both a gift and a curse, one that keeps them tethered to a world that refuses to remain the same. But why do the elves still stay? What compels them to continue, knowing that their time in Middle-earth is slowly coming to an end? Immortality can be a blessing, but it is also a prison. The elves are not immune to the pain of watching time slip away. Their long lives have allowed them to gain immense knowledge, yet it also means that they must endure the loneliness of outliving their friends and loved ones. They are bound to Middle-earth, but in a way, they are also exiled from it. Their immortality keeps them trapped in a world that refuses to stay the same. As the world around them shifts and changes, the elves find themselves struggling with a sense of helplessness. They watch as their once great realms fall into ruin, as civilizations rise and crumble, and as they themselves begin to fade from the memories of mortals. They no longer possess the same power they once did, and their influence on Middle-earth begins to wane. Yet, despite their fading presence, they remain one of the most influential races in the world, and their wisdom continues to guide those who seek it. But the elves' immortality also grants them a deeper understanding of the world, one that few mortals will ever comprehend. They have seen the consequences of greed, of power, and of time itself. They understand that their immortality is both a gift and a curse, and it is this understanding that shapes their destiny. The elves have lived through countless ages, and their legacy is written in the very fabric of Middle-earth. But what will become of them once they are gone? The elves have always been a people of great power, wisdom, and grace. Yet as time has passed, they have found themselves at a crossroads. Their immortal lives have been filled with both triumph and loss, and now they must decide whether to continue their existence in Middle-earth or to leave for the Undying Lands. For the elves, this decision is not an easy one. They are tied to Middle-earth in ways that even they cannot fully understand. But they also know that the time has come for them to leave. The elves have long struggled with the idea of leaving Middle-earth behind. Their hearts are bound to the land, to the forests they have nurtured, and to the people they have protected. Yet they also understand that their time in Middle-earth has come to an end. The world is changing, and it is no longer a place for the elves to thrive. They are the last of their kind, and their departure will mark the end of an era in the history of Middle-earth. But the decision to leave is not simply about the elves' own fate. It is about the future of Middle-earth. The elves have given so much to the world, but now it is time for the mortals to carry the burden. The elves must trust that the free peoples of Middle-earth will carry on the legacy they leave behind and fight for the future of the world. Their departure is not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter in Middle-earth's history. Immortal doesn't mean unkillable. One of the strangest truths about elves is that they can die, and in some cases, they can return. Their bodies can be slain in battle, or they can wither from grief so deep that their hearts simply refuse to go on. But their spirits don't leave the world the way men's do. When an elf dies, their fea, their spirit, is summoned to the Halls of Mandos in the west, where they wait in silence and reflection. Here's the part most people don't realize. An elf's story doesn't always end there. In some cases, after long ages, they can be re-embodied, given a new body that matches the one they lost, and sent back to live again in the blessed realm. They remember everything, all the pain, all the choices, all the history. It's not reincarnation as a fresh start. It's more like being released from prison with the full weight of your past still on your shoulders. That's why death for elves feels different from death for men. Men are given what Tolkien calls the gift of Iluvatar. Their souls leave the world entirely. Elves, on the other hand, are tied to Arda until its end. Even when their bodies fail, their spirits remain bound to the same world, the same story, the same long grief. No escape, no final curtain, just a different form of waiting. So when you see an elf charge into battle, they're not just risking their lives in the moment, they're risking another stretch of long, silent reflection in Mandos, knowing that if they return, the world will be older, sadder, and changed without them. When the elves first awoke by the waters of Cuiviénen, they weren't marched into a single neat destiny. They were offered a choice. The Valar invited them to leave Middle-earth and travel west to the Blessed Realm. Some said yes, some said no. That one decision quietly shapes almost everything you see in The Lord of the Rings. Those who accepted the summons and began the great journey become the Eldar. Among them, some reached Valinor and saw the light of the two trees, like Galadriel's people. Others stopped along the way and never crossed the sea. They became the Sindar and other Grey Elves, like Thranduil's folk in Mirkwood. They are ancient, wise, and powerful, but they never saw the Blessed Realm with their own eyes, and that difference matters. Then there were the Avari, the unwilling, the elves who simply refused to go at all. They stayed behind in the wilds of Middle-earth, far from the guidance and protection of the Valar. They don't appear directly in the films, but their existence lurks in the background of the legendarium. Forgotten kindreds in dark forests, shaped by long ages without the light of Valinor. When you see the contrast between noble, high-born elves and rougher woodland folk, you're seeing the echo of that first quiet split at Cuiviénen. So when an elf looks more high and holy or more wild and strange, it's not just personality, it's geography, history, and one ancient choice that never fully stopped echoing. By the time of The Lord of the Rings, elven realms like Rivendell and Lothlorien don't just feel peaceful, they feel out of time. That's not just good landscaping, it's the work of the three elven rings. While Sauron poured domination and control into the One Ring, the elven rings were made to preserve, to hold back decay, to keep beauty from slipping away. That's why when the Fellowship enters Lothlorien, it feels like stepping into a memory that refuses to fade. The seasons move, but the forest doesn't seem to age. The air, the light, the leaves all feel suspended between change and eternity. Galadriel isn't just a wise ruler there, she is its anchor, wearing Nenya, the ring of adamant, quietly holding back time itself. Here's the twist. That preservation came at a price. The elven rings were still ultimately tied to the One. The moment Frodo's quest succeeds and the ring is destroyed, the power of the three begins to fail. All those sanctuaries, Rivendell, Lothlorien, even the Grey Havens, start to lose the magic that kept them unchanged. By saving the world, the elves also doom the last untouched pockets of their own fading age. So when you see Frodo walk under golden leaves that never fall, you're not just looking at a pretty forest, you're walking through a miracle on borrowed time, one that begins to unravel the moment the ring melts in Mount Doom. In the films, it can feel like Galadriel and Elrond are just really good judges of character. In Tolkien's world, it goes deeper than that. Elves don't just listen, they can reach. There is a whole lore of thought speech called Osanwe, the direct contact of minds without words. It isn't mind control and it isn't casual, but it explains why some elves seem to know far more than anyone tells them. When Frodo stands before Galadriel with the ring, she doesn't just read his face, she senses his burden, his fear, and the paths he might walk. Elves can open their minds to others and refuse entry too. That silent weighing, that feeling of being known more deeply than you might want, is part of what makes encounters with high elves so unsettling. It's not magic tricks, it's how their spirits naturally work in the world. This ability also hints at why elves and Sauron were deadly opponents. Sauron, as a fallen Maya, works by domination of will. The elves, especially the greatest among them, understand will and thought in ways men never will. Their resistance to him isn't just physical or political, it's spiritual. They know exactly how dangerous it is when one mind seeks to smother all others. So that eerie sense when someone steps into an elven hall and suddenly feels exposed, weighed, and strangely comforted at the same time, that's not just atmosphere. That's thousands of years of spiritual discipline looking straight through you. Here's the final, unsettling truth. The elves don't leave Middle-earth just because they're tired. If they stayed, they would eventually fade, not as a poetic metaphor, but literally. Over long ages, their bodies become less substantial, their presence more like a haunting than a people. They would turn into nearly invisible spirits, tied to a land that can no longer properly hold them. This fading is one of the quiet tragedies behind their departure. The world is changing. The great works of the elves are ending, men are rising, and magic itself is withdrawing. The longer they remain, the more out of place they become, like echoes that won't stop ringing after the music is ended. Sailing west isn't running away. It's the only way for them to remain whole instead of becoming restless shades wandering forests that no longer remember their names. That's the answer to the question we opened with. Why do they keep going even when everything they loved seems to be slipping away? Because their story was never meant to last forever in the mortal lands. Their task was to shepherd the early ages of the world, to hold back the dark until men could stand on their own. Once that work is done, staying would only twist them into something sorrowful and half-seen. So when the last ships leave the Grey Havens, it isn't just a sad goodbye to pretty immortal beings. It's the closing of a door that had to close so the world could move forward, and so the elves themselves wouldn't slowly become ghosts in the very lands they once helped to build. If this opened your eyes to just how strange and tragic the elves really are, don't forget to leave a like so more fans can find it, and subscribe to Echoes of Middle-earth for more lore that the movies never fully explained. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.